For my wife's significant birthday, I arranged for a week-long stay at an extravagant spa resort in Palm Springs, which I concealed due to work obligations. I informed her of this, and she appeared distressed. 2 days later, I planned a surprise. I discreetly purchased a flight ticket to join her in her room, intending to arrive with a bouquet of roses. However, the surprise was on me. For nearly a year, possibly more, I had returned home late most nights. Claire would express feelings of loneliness, and I'd acknowledge them. Yet our interactions rarely went beyond that. Over 10 years of marriage, we had drifted apart, spending most of our time in separate rooms with closed doors, feigning normalcy. When her birthday arrived, I sought to change this. I reserved a week at a luxurious Palm Springs retreat, the kind you see in magazines, offering massages, mud baths, and a pool spanning the entire building. I lied about attending a meeting at the warehouse, unable to accompany her. She pressed a cheek kiss to me and confided that it was the most thoughtful act anyone had ever bestowed upon them. In the very same afternoon, I secured my own airline ticket, identical flight, last row. I contacted the florist for an express delivery of her favorite white roses, the ones with the extended stems, to the hotel's reception desk. As she was organizing her belongings in the bedroom, I caught a glimpse and noticed a new swimsuit among the items, evidence of a recent salon visit. She bore the air of a woman embarking on a journey. At that moment, I remained unaware that she indeed was. I merely thought she was content. As I took my seat in the final row of the aircraft, I pulled down my baseball cap. Claire sat in row 11, where I had reserved her spot. From where I was seated, I could see the top of her head. Every few minutes, she'd grab her phone, glance at it, then return it to its resting place, only to pick it up once more. She wasn't reading, she was waiting. I presumed it was a spa app, checking on her appointments. Throughout that flight, I told myself numerous stories. Upon touching down, she remained seated, allowing 2 individuals to pass her first. Her gaze remained fixed on the window. During our 10-year marriage, I had never observed such behavior from her before. Claire was always quick to rise before the seatbelt signal went off and be the first to exit. I allowed her to disembark ahead of me. I waited until every passenger from her row had entered the jetway before proceeding. At baggage claim, I positioned myself behind a pillar. She was already there, staring at the carousel with her phone clasped tightly in both hands as if it could provide warmth. I hesitated to approach her then, considering wrapping my arms around her from behind. For 2 days, I had been envisioning the expression on her face upon realizing I was present. However, something about her stance held me back. Thus, I chose to wait. Her luggage appeared on the conveyor belt. She did not approach it. Instead, she continued watching the doors. This moment should have made me suspicious. Approximately 10 minutes later, a man entered through the sliding doors. Followed closely by a compact black case suitable for overhead storage, he strode on without glancing around as if greeting someone new. Instead, he approached another individual directly. Unsmiling and unfazed, she merely inclined slightly, hinting perhaps at an anticipated presence. Leaning close to her ear, he murmured softly. She acknowledged with a nod, and he claimed her suitcase handle, leading them towards the exits in tandem. I must disclose this detail as it holds significance. They did not exchange a kiss nor share a handclasp. At a distance of 20 feet, they could have been professionals reuniting after a joint project at the airport. This was my desired interpretation, for the alternative scenario lurked menacingly, and I wasn't prepared to entertain it yet. He was close in age, displaying gray hair at his temples, adorning an upscale timepiece, exuding an air of self-importance befitting one accustomed to garnering attention. I trailed them from afar, observing as they parted ways at the sidewalk. She entered a hotel van. She climbed into a black vehicle idling in the second lane. I mused it was chance. Many traveled to Palm Springs during springtime. The flight was jam-packed. I hopped onto the next shuttle by myself. All the way to the hotel, I could not erase the sight of her nodding at him from my mind. The establishment was a place where the air in the lobby was redolent with cucumber water, and no questions were asked twice if you desired to bring someone up. I approached the counter, donning a windbreaker with roses wrapped in paper in hand, and gave my name. The woman smiled and slid a key card across the marble surface. Within our suite, situated on the 7th floor with a view of the mountain, I ascended alone, rehearsing the encounter in my head. I'd knock. She'd open the door, her mouth agape for half a second before tears began to stream down her face, the beautiful kind of crying. And then I would present her with the roses, and she'd laugh into my chest. I had arranged a week of care for her as a birthday gift and was preparing to deliver the rest in person. Upon reaching the door, it wouldn't close due to the latch being thrown over the strike plate. Light streamed into the hallway from inside. I opened the door with 2 fingers. A man emerged from the bathroom wearing a white robe and toweling his hair, unaware of my presence. He was looking towards the bed where Claire sat in her robe, brushing her wet hair. He requested another towel as the one he had was damp. She looked up upon seeing me. I walked to the writing desk, placed the roses down, and said I would retrieve it. The paper crinkled. I replied, got it, and left without turning around. Instead of the elevator, I chose the stairs. I descended 7 flights with my luggage bumping against my shin, then exited the lobby, hailed a taxi, and asked the driver to take me to any hotel other than this one. In a motel room near the highway, I settled on the bed's edge as my phone buzzed on the nightstand, signaling 8 messages and a 2-minute voicemail. I chose not to listen to the message nor respond. By midnight, I should have purchased a flight ticket home, but I remained stubborn. At 8 a.m. the following day, I found myself at the hotel bar, positioned at its end with a cup of coffee, observing the lobby. I anticipated his arrival. Men like him seldom miss breakfast. True to form, he emerged from the elevator at 9:20 in a navy coat, alone. He made his way towards the bar, taking a seat 3 stools away from mine and ordering an espresso without noticing me yet. Engrossed in his phone, I finished my coffee and shifted to the stool next to him. Upon turning, he spotted me. His face betrayed the body's recognition before the mind did. Neither of us spoke or moved for around 20 seconds. Looking at the bartender, he slid a crumpled bill on the counter and exited without his espresso. After finishing my coffee and leaving a tip, I headed to the airport on the afternoon flight at 4. Upon returning home, an unusual silence enveloped the house. Her shoes were by the door, and her coffee cup remained in the sink from the day she departed. I disposed of the cold coffee and washed the cup before placing it upside down in the cabinet. Roy, an old friend dating back to high school days, was the one I called on a Wednesday, seeking a quiet dinner rendezvous. He suggested a secluded steakhouse off the highway where we used to dine when single, a dimly lit establishment with cozy booths. After letting me nearly finish my drink, he merely said, "All right, speak." I shared the details succinctly. I described the hotel and the man in the robe. Silvered temples, pricey timepiece, the type of man who seemed to possess a yacht. Roy fell silent. He delicately placed his glass onto the table. "I need to disclose something," he began hesitantly. "Approximately 5 months ago on a Tuesday, I spotted her with that man in Kirkland. I assumed he was acquainted with her circle, perhaps a colleague or friend's spouse. I thought you were aware." His gaze locked onto me. "I should have contacted you," he admitted. I cast my eyes to the tabletop. "Benson," I murmured softly just to confirm. Roy nodded in agreement. "That was the name she used," he disclosed. As I drove home that frosty night with the windows open, I yearned for the chill air on my face. By the time I parked in the driveway, I wasn't shocked anymore. Instead, I was beginning to comprehend everything. I settled into a chair at the kitchen table and allowed my mind to process what I had been deliberately evading for a week: the business gathering in Phoenix last September. She claimed a sunburn from the hotel pool, yet it wasn't possible from there. The wellness retreat in Sedona during February was the subject of her conversation. She mentioned Megan, her supposed friend, paid for it as a birthday gift, but Megan had never footed a bill before. The 2-night stay in San Diego prior to Easter for some unclear certification was another topic she brought up, which I didn't inquire about because I rarely did. All these weekends, I was occupied with the warehouse, vendor meetings, or quarterly tasks that demanded immediate attention. I wasn't verifying receipts, I was just recalling. Once I started, I couldn't stop. The change in her shampoo scent, the unnoticed bracelet, her new way of saying "I'm fine" when asked about fatigue, and the Whitman fundraiser, the major downtown event with the silent auction in October before last, were details I noticed. I disliked attending it, and we argued in the kitchen over my tie selection. Spent the entire night seated beside 2 Chamber of Commerce members, scarcely glancing across the table. It was there that I spotted him, across from me all evening. The photo box had been gathering dust in the den's closet for 2 years, on a shelf untouched. I retrieved it at 3 in the morning and emptied its contents onto the floor. A photographer captured us at the Whitman event, a woman with a digital camera who later sent Claire an email folder containing photos. Claire printed her preferred images and placed them in this box. At the bottom of the pile, I found them around a dozen prints. We were all at our table in the pictures. Claire was wearing the dark green dress she bought for the event. I had my tie askew in most photographs, often looking at my phone. In many shots, Claire was absent when I was laughing at something one of the chamber members said. She was on the opposite side of the table. Benson was always there, opposite Claire, slightly angled forward, his hand resting on his wine glass. In one frame, he spoke and she laughed, tilting her head back. I was just 3 feet away with my back turned. A photo was taken from behind the auction table, revealing most of our table from that angle. Claire was bending over her purse, so was Benson, sideways, clutching his phone. From this perspective, their postures were identical. They appeared to be exchanging numbers under the tablecloth, unbeknownst to anyone in the room. I kept those photographs for a long time. Whatever she did, it was her decision. I chose 3 of the clearest shots and placed them into a manila envelope. I sealed it and left it on the edge of the kitchen counter. She returned on a Sunday afternoon. I was in the kitchen when I heard her key in the front door. She positioned herself in the doorway, her suitcase beside her, her expression set for the argument she had been practicing all week. The scene had unfolded over 7 days. I instructed her to take a seat at the table. I pushed an envelope towards her. Upon opening it, she gazed at the first photograph. Recognition dawned on her face. I reminded her that we were both on the plane together and that the man holding roses at the door was me. Prompted, she began to speak. I gestured for her to pause and said, "I want a divorce." She covered her face with her hands, remaining silent. After some time, she lifted her head and looked at me as if waiting for more, expecting anger or profanity. But there was no further exchange. I had spoken the words I had come to utter. I rose from the table and departed for the garage. I leaned against the workbench. Later, I heard sobs emanating from upstairs. It was the first time she had ever cried so loudly. I chose not to ascend. A week subsequent, I received information from a man within Roy's circle that Benson's wife had filed for divorce. It appeared someone had delivered a folder to her. We were compelled to cohabit the house for nearly a month while the legal proceedings transpired. I resided in the guest room, and she occupied the bedroom. Our encounters were limited to the kitchen in the mornings and the hallway at night. We conversed about the water bill, but nothing else. By the 7th day, the doorbell rang on a Tuesday afternoon. I arrived first. A youth in green polo stood on the porch bearing a large bouquet of red roses. He consulted his clipboard, reading Claire's name. I accepted the delivery. Claire descended the stairs upon hearing the door. She paused midway upon seeing the flowers in my hand. I bypassed her and entered the kitchen. I discarded the roses into the trash can with my foot atop the coffee grounds. I closed the lid, turned around, and faced her. I stated, "Inform him to deliver them personally next time." She remained silent. She departed and ascended the stairs again. On the day of departure, she descended with 2 large bags and stood in the entrance hall. Her voice was barely audible. "I apologize." She gave a single nod. She exited. The door closed softly behind her. The house remained under my name. She took what she had entered the union with and not a penny more. You'll wonder if something could have been altered, if things might have taken a different course. At times, love doesn't conclude on the night of discovery. Sometimes it concludes much earlier, though you may fail to perceive it. Life is unpredictable. One never knows what awaits next. I sought to surprise my spouse for her birthday, arrived with flowers, expecting a romantic evening at a fine restaurant. Instead, I encountered raw emotion, painful yet liberating.